Hi. So I came across this image which talks about 23 emotions that people can't explain, or some a title like that. And I thought it was kind of interesting in some of the things that it said. And I feel like with some of my previous videos, I've sort of talked about some of these things, and yeah, I think I've kind of talked about certain aspects and certain of these things, and also talked about them in different type of contexts. So when I actually saw this image, I thought it was kind of interesting. So I thought maybe I'll make a video and talk about some of it, and maybe express some of my own thoughts on this, and yeah, and kind of see where it goes, because I felt that with some of the things that I'd already said about some of the ideas expressed in this, I thought it might be kind of interesting to look at this. Okay, so I think I'll just take a look at what it is, and yeah. Okay, so the first one is sonder, which is described here. Okay, I'm going to talk about those things like they're described in here, and maybe express some of my thoughts on this. Okay, so the first one is sonder, which it says is the realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own. And yeah, I think with this, it can also work in different ways. It can work with people, but it can also work with um, like the way I see it, and I've sort of felt about it before, is it can work with people, and it can work with certain places. Like for example, you might be traveling, and you might be going through a place that it's just a passing place, and you might like see a house in there somewhere, and you might see it for maybe like a split second, maybe, but and then it's just gone from your memory, because it was just one thing in your during the duration while you were traveling. But there might be another person that lived there, and that person maybe that person lived there for many amount of years, and to that person, it's a place, they know that place so vividly, and it might be such an important part of their life, and they might have so many memories with that place, and the way they see that place is so different from the way you see that place, because to you it's maybe just a house that you're passing by, but to that place, that house is associated with so many different memories, and so maybe there are other people that they associate with that house. So it can work in yeah, it's just very different ways that people look at it, and it's in different perspectives. And like I said, and it's also with people. Uh, you might a random passerby, it's just a person, it's just another face, but there's an entire history with that person. That person was, they have their own things that make them who they are, and all the different things about them. So yeah, I think it's this is a really interesting idea, and I think I've kind of talked about this before in some other context probably, and yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. And like I said, I've felt I've felt this myself, and had different kind of thoughts about this, and which I like some of it I talked about it. So yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting idea. So okay, let's move to the next one. So the second one you listed here is opia, which is described as the ambiguous intensity of looking someone in the eye, which can feel simultaneously invasive and vulnerable. Okay, yeah, and I think um, okay, it can yeah. Okay, this is kind of a visceral thing, and a really a more of an emotional thing. So it is kind of hard to put into words, but I think yeah, it's that it's almost in a way like when you look into a person's eyes, you're kind of, and when they sort of in a way match it with the, you're looking at them and they're looking at you, and when it sort of matches and it connects, I think it can create some pretty interesting emotions, and yeah, it can create some pretty interesting um, yeah, that there's that sort of I don't know what do you call it? Would you call it like hesitation? I don't know. There's that a bit of a some kind of it feels good, but you kind of hesitate. It's that sort of a thing. But yeah, I yeah I've felt this, and I think it's a pretty interesting sort of I guess dynamic in a way when that happens, and it can feel really good. I think, and yeah, so that's this one, and so let's go to the next one. The third one is um, monachopsis. Monachopsis is that? I'm not sure of the pronunciation. Okay, so the subtle but persistent feeling of being out of place. Mm, okay, I guess this really depends a lot on what sort of a context it is, and yeah, depending on that, it can make sense depending on what type of context it is. Okay, so the next one is énouement, which is, did I pronounce that right? I'm not sure. Okay, but okay, which is the bittersweetness of having arrived in the future, seeing how things turn out, but not being able to tell your past self. Okay, so this sort of goes with I guess with the direction of time and knowing things, and possessing information that you did not possess in the past that might help you out. And yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting concept too. Okay, so the next one is vellichor. Again, not sure of the pronunciation, but yeah, which is the strange wistfulness of used bookshops. Yeah, I think I kind of I've kind of felt this, and it's not just necessarily bookshops. There's this certain type of atmosphere where you have this sort of I don't know. There's this some kind of a feeling that occurs during this, and it's also sort of yeah. I mean, not also, but it's pretty much it's kind of that atmospheric. It's a kind of an atmospheric emotion which you might feel, and yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting and yeah, an interesting sort of atmospheric effect on how you perceive it. And so yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Okay, so the next one is rubatosis, which is the unsettling awareness of your own heartbeat. Okay, so I guess this you could sort of trying to put this into context. I guess this could apply in some kind of a tense situation, or maybe in some kind of a thrilling situation where a person might, their heart might beat really fast, and with the with all the things. Oh, what was I getting at? Okay, with the context of what is happening in the situation and all the sort of thrilling and maybe scary, maybe some feel good sort of emotions. With these sort of emotions, they might really feel that feeling of heartbeat. It might really create for yeah, it can create for an interesting I don't know, sort of emotion. I'm not too sure about this one, but yeah, there's that feeling of feeling your heartbeat, which I think I kind of get what this one is about. Yeah. So the next one is kenopsia, which is described as the eerie, forlorn atmosphere of a place that is usually bustling with people, but is now abandoned and quiet. Yes, this is yeah. I think I've felt this many times and in many different contexts, and yeah, I think maybe you can feel this in some kind of a place. That maybe there's some kind of a workplace. Maybe there's or usually some kind of a busy place where you often have a lot of people. But maybe it can be that you visit this place during maybe like closed hours or after hours, or maybe you visit it during maybe at night time when you visit it when there's no one there, if it's usually a lot of people that are in this place during the day. And yeah, I think it can be yeah, an eerie experience, yes. And because normally when you see it in a completely different context, but with all those people gone, you sort of begin to feel the place. And there can also be that the echoing when you often talk inside a closed room, inside a maybe like a large room, relatively. And when there's usually a lot of people there, you don't hear the echoes. But when you're there alone and you listen to your own voice with no one around, you hear those echoes, and I think that kind of adds to the atmosphere of it. And yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting feeling, and kind of melancholic. Can't even talk. Okay, but yeah, I think it's a really interesting feeling. I've felt this many times myself, and yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of experience and an interesting sort of thing to experience. Okay, so the next one, which one was it? Okay, so the next one is mauerbauertraurigkeit. Okay, what does that mean though? Wall builder sadness, is that what that means? I don't know, what's sort of the context behind that? I think that's pretty interesting. Mauerbauertraurigkeit. Okay, so which is the inexplicable urge to push people away, even close friends who you really like. Oh, not sure about this. I don't know. I think there might be some kind of I don't know. Is this like sort of similar to impulsive thoughts when I guess some people in certain contexts it's described as wanting to do something crazy, like like when you're maybe in a library and you just and you want to jump on top of the desk and do something crazy. Yeah, so that sort of impulsive thoughts is, I don't know, is this somehow related to that? I think there's a more of an emotional component to this, but yeah, kind of interesting to think of it in that way too. Okay, so the next one is jouska, which is again not sure of the pronunciation, but okay, which is a hypothetical conversation that you compulsively play out in your head. Okay. Now I'm thinking in what sort of a context that this might be, right? Is it in some kind of positive context? Is it in a negative context? Because it might be something that maybe you really like, or maybe something that you kind of look forward to. So yeah, maybe, I don't know what kind of a conversation this might be, and yeah, it can be kind of interesting. Hypothetical conversation. Okay, I'm not too sure about this as to what exactly this might be, but yeah, I think it might be you compulsively play out. Not sure. Not sure about this. Okay, and yeah, I would like suggest that maybe you can have an image of this too that you might look at, so you would find it easier to see. Okay, and okay, so the next one is chrysalism, which is the amniotic tranquility of being indoors during a thunderstorm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think it's that maybe that juxtaposition, or maybe that contrast of being in that really controlled environment of being indoors versus all that craziness that might be happening outside, and the sort of chaotic things that might be happening outside. And yeah, with the lightning and the wind and all the sounds and the moving of the trees, and the way they move with the wind, and the rain, and the way the rain sort of moves. You have these gusts of wind, they come in and they move the rain, so that it's this chaotic sort of atmosphere outside, and on the inside it's this controlled space where you feel everything under control, and everything yeah, not having that chaotic qualities that are outside. So it's an interesting sort of contrast that is with this. And yeah, I think it's kind of an amazing feeling. Yeah, it's pretty pretty nice. I personally love that kind of weather, and I love yeah, this is something that I've experienced too, and I really like it. It's also that darkness. If this is during the day, at night it can be creating an amazing atmosphere too. But during that day, there's also that component of that darkness because of all those dark clouds, and yeah, sort of that a bit of darkness during the day. It can create for some I don't know, some interesting emotions. Um, yeah. Okay. So the next one. Let's go to the next one, which is vemödalen, which is the frustration of photographing something amazing when thousands of identical photos already exist. Okay, is this sort of talking about a sort of an artistic fear that when you are artistic, yeah, an artistic fear that whatever it is that you're creating, that it already exists and you're not saying anything new? Is that what this has to do with? Because yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but so yeah, I'm kind of interpreting this in my way and trying to put this into a context in which the way I understand it. So yeah, there might be, I guess, another way that people might interpret this too. So yeah, okay, so this can be a way that, yeah, an artist might feel this way when you're creating a piece of art. They might feel that yeah, maybe someone has already created this. Maybe this also has to do with being a writer and writing something and creating a story. And there might be aspects of the story, and there might be certain characters and many things about creating stories, characters, and emotions, and various things, various dynamics within. And yeah, a person might feel that maybe it has been done before. I don't know. Is that what this is about? I'm not sure, but yeah, I guess it's an interesting concept too, I guess. Next one is anecdoche, which is a conversation in which everyone is talking but no one is listening. Okay, I guess everyone has kind of experienced this at some point when, yeah, it's just everyone's talking at the same time, but you kind of wonder who's listening. Maybe there might be one person who's just there and doesn't really know what's going on, and you're like, okay, who exactly is talking to whom? And I guess there might not be, I don't know, maybe it kind of feels this way maybe on, I don't know, maybe on a dinner table, or maybe when you're in a classroom and, it's just nothing's happening in the classroom and everyone's just talking to each other. Or maybe, yeah, on a dinner table when everyone is just sort of talking to each other about nothing. Maybe it's maybe it's not, it's just kind of mindless talking, I guess, in a way, not in a bad way, of course. You can like, yeah, but yeah, pretty interesting thing too. Okay, so the next one is ellipsism, which is a sadness that you'll never be able to know how history will turn out. Okay, so I guess, I'm not too sure what exactly this is getting at, but I guess, again, maybe it has to do with that lack of information and the need to know more things and to have more information, to have clear perspectives on things. I don't know, maybe it has something to do with that. I'm not too sure about this one. So okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Okay, the the next one is kuebiko, which is a state of exhaustion inspired by acts of senseless violence. Oh, okay. Again, I'm not too sure about this one. I guess maybe it has to do with, yeah, the senselessness of it. Maybe the whole, when the whole thing is over, maybe they can understand the senselessness of it and the futility of it, and the sort of, I guess in a way, the calm after the storm. I guess in some kind of a way. Yeah, it's that. I guess it's that eerie sense of calmness that might happen. Yeah. So anyway, next one is lachesism, which is the desire to be struck by disaster. Okay. I'm not too sure about this one either. And I guess, again, I'm not too sure about this one. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Exulansis, Okay, which is the tendency to give up trying to talk about an experience because people are unable to relate to it. Okay, yeah, I guess this is one of those things, like when people are in a group and one person is telling a story and you realize that no one's really listening to it, so they just like slowly just stop talking and and they realize that no one was listening to it all along, so you just go quiet and while telling that story, and no one knows it, no one realizes anything. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of rude, but yeah, I guess it's kind of a funny thing that might happen, or it might be. That's one thing. This one says that people are unable to relate to it, and yeah, again, it can be kind of an kind of an awkward sort of moment when yeah, you're just telling a story and people just can't relate. Uh, okay, so anyway, the next one is adronitis, which is frustration with how long it takes to get to know someone. Okay. I guess I don't think it necessarily takes very long to get to know someone, and I think yeah, I'm not too sure about how it is meant here, but I feel yeah, I can sort of get that, you know. Okay, yeah, I guess this is also a bit more ineffable in a way to talk about this, but yeah, I sort of see it that you might want to get to know someone and it might take long, yeah. But yeah, I think um, I think it's still a great thing ever to get to know a wonderful person. I think it's a great thing, and getting to know the other person, and getting to know things about someone else. I think it can always be a really great thing as you realize that you're starting to get to know someone, and now you know them better. You know them and you understand them, and I think it can be really. It can make you feel really good and really connected to and to start forming a connection with the other person. I think it can be really amazing. Okay, so the next one is rückkehrunruhe, rückkehrunruhe. Okay, which is the feeling of returning home after an immersive trip, only to find it rapidly fading from your awareness. Okay, I guess when you're in a different sort of environment, right, which might be this immersive trip, you're processing all this information, and when yeah, it can create all these amazing new experiences. But when you come back to your normal surroundings, you sort of come back. Your mind sort of comes back to the to the usual and to the and it's in a way like waking up from a dream. When you're in a dream, you're experiencing, it might be like a really amazing dream, and when you wake up you realize that okay, now we're back. Okay. Oh, that sounds kind of pessimistic, but okay. uh, um, so yeah, oh, what was I going to say? um, So yeah, I guess in a way you can just think of it in a way that it might almost feel like a dream, that you were dreaming and now you were having this beautiful dream and you woke up and now you're back. I mean, not to sound too pessimistic, but yeah, it's kind of that melancholic feeling, and that I guess there's that bittersweetness in that too. Mm, yeah, okay, so to go to the next one is nodus tollens, which is the realization that the plot of your life doesn't make sense to you anymore. Okay, so confusion, and again, that lack of information, and lack of being able to make sense of things. And, to maybe this also might have to do with something to do with lack of control of your own life. Maybe it has to do with a person maybe in some way feeling that they are they're not really, they're an observer of themselves instead of being in charge of their life, instead of, yeah, instead of they're sort of an observer of their life instead of leading their life in some way. It might have to do with that kind of a situation, which it might feel as thought of your life doesn't make sense to you anymore. Okay. Yeah, it might have to do with, I don't know, is this mostly a negative thing? Maybe can this be perceived in some sort of a positive light? Okay, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I guess this might have to do with yeah, trying to make more sense out of life and trying to find more meaning in life. And I think if a person feels this way, they should look to finding some sort of meaning, either with people or with creating something, or yeah, create getting close to others and being with others, and in a way that you feel more emotions, because I think even if the plot of life doesn't make sense, if you have interesting characters with you, I guess it can make it worthwhile, right? So yeah, I think the way to look at this is to be with more beautiful people and wonderful people, and to have more meaningful experiences with them. Okay, next one, which is onism, which is again not sure of the pronunciation, but which is the frustration of being stuck in just one body that inhabits only one place at a time. Okay, so this has to do with, I guess, the vastness of the world and the vastness and the possibilities that exist out there. And I've talked about this before, and it has to do with all these people out there, and with all these possibilities, and with all these possibilities of experience. A person might feel that with one person, there's only a limited amount of things that a person might do, because the possibilities with so many people out there, so many wonderful people out there, you might be able to form connections with so many of them. There might be so many people that you might like having in your life, but you might feel that you're just one person in one place. How can I get to know these people? How can I have all these experiences? How can I be with, let's say, a certain person that you never met? What could have been if I had been with this person, maybe in this place, and it could have been a really amazing experience, and you could have shared a wonderful bond with this other person, and you could have been in a certain place, and it might have been a really amazing experience, and it might have made you feel really good to be with this person in this place. But with the limited possibilities, so there might be so many people that you just won't meet. There might be so many places where you might want to be with them, but it just never happened. And there might be so many experiences that you might have to share with this person that you never met, that you never got to experience. So I guess it can be so crushing, right? This feeling that so many things just never happened, and yeah, and it can add so much sadness. But I guess a person can be happy, right? That still to share with, let's say, one person, to share with just one person, to share some emotions with them, and to share some wonderful experiences with them. I think that can still be pretty amazing. So we can be happy about that, right? So yeah, so that's with this one. Let's go to the next one, which is liberosis, which is the desire to care less about things. Okay, I guess this might have to do with caring too much, or maybe worrying too much, or maybe okay, those are two very separate things. Okay, I think it's a really wonderful thing to care. Okay, to care a lot, to care about people, to care about things that matter, right? Things that matter to you, and amazing things, because amazing things and good people, and I think it's a really great thing to care about them, and I think that's one of the things. And I guess another aspect of this, which is separate from what I just said, is I guess the way this says to care less about things, which is, I guess, to be less anxious about things, to worry less about things, to worry less about what direction something might go, and to sort of like it says liberosis, to to liberate and to free yourself from that sort of anxious sort of thinking that might really sort of have a grip on you, to sort of to sort of let go of it, and to um, yeah, to free yourself in from those maybe some negative thoughts, or those worries, and to live life freely. And because with that freeness, a person can really let go of the burdens and just live and be in the moment in a way that they might be able to live their life to the fullest. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting concept too. Okay, so the next one is altschmerz, which is weariness with the same old issues that you've always had, the same boring flaws and anxieties that you've been gnawing on for years. Okay, I guess this might have to do with you might think of this in a way that of being tired of the old issues and realizing that you've had these problems for so long, and now they're still here. You might even see yourself as a person who has grown, as a person who has who might have who might have yeah, grown in a way. But these old problems, some of them, maybe they just never fix themselves, and you're still dealing with these problems, and you're like, okay, my life has come so far and I'm still dealing with this. And it might create that sort of tiredness, like, okay, I'm sort of done with this, let's move on and let's get to something else, right? Because yeah, I guess this is the way I am interpreting this. Maybe there might be another way of interpreting this too. But yeah, I guess I understand. I guess it has to do with the feeling of maybe just moving on. And I guess it can connect with the previous one too, of liberosis, the desire to care less about things. So you maybe want to just not care about your old problems anymore, which might have stayed for too long, and to sort of free yourself, to have that sense of freedom, that I'm free from these things. Yeah, so that is altschmerz. Yeah, okay. Um, I guess if you let me just say this, if you feel this way, I hope you find something, right? I hope you find a way to free yourself from your problems and to free yourself from things that bother you, okay? I just thought I'd say this to have sort of a positive message to this video. So yeah, I hope um, you free yourself from your problems, and you live a wonderful and amazing and fulfilling existence in a way that you really enjoy life, because I feel life is meant to be lived. It's not meant to be endured. So we should stop enduring life and start living life. And I feel that I hope you find all the things that you need to live life and not endure life, and that you get rid of those problems that stop you from living your life to your fullest. Okay, so I just thought I'd like maybe share a positive message with this, because I think yeah, this can be a really crushing feeling. And um, yeah, so I hope if you feel this way, that you feel better, and you live life, you get yourself in a place where you can live an amazing life and have wonderful experiences and be with wonderful people and feel a sense of goodness, and feel have a sense of living an amazing life, and have a sense of calmness and energy, and have and sort of free yourself from the problems. Okay, anyway, I've talked about it for too long. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so I think this is the last one. Occhiolism, which is the awareness of the smallness of your perspective. Okay, so I guess this can sort of tie in with the previous one. Which one was it? Okay, anyway, which is, again, I guess the way you can interpret this is, can you think of this in a way that, smallness of your perspective. Okay, so this have to do with being more having more perspectives and being more knowledgeable and being able to see, in a way, sort of see the big picture, because you might from one perspective you might be looking at a part of these things, but when you have all these different perspectives and all these different ways of looking at things and approaching things from different angles, and finding the interconnected aspects between subjects that might feel unrelated, to have a perspective, to be knowledgeable in a certain aspect of or a certain subject, and to be knowledgeable in another subject, and to be able to make connections between them in a way that you didn't know exist, or in a way that might be counterintuitive that these connections even exist. So when you finally see these connections, in a way you start seeing the big picture, in a way that you might say the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, in a way that there's so many perspectives, but when you put these perspectives together, it's just a whole another big picture that you can finally see and realize. Maybe it can have some interesting epiphanies that might occur to you when you finally see the big picture. And yeah, I think that might be a pretty interesting, and you might experience this, not necessarily that you might not experience glimpses of this, that you might have those sort of epiphanies when you finally see the big picture, and when you can finally when you can sort of combine perspectives and think of things in completely sort of amazing ways. So yeah, I guess you can think of it positively in that way too. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Those were the words and the terms listed here, and the emotions listed with it. I thought this was a really interesting picture, and like I said, I talked about many of these things before. So when I looked at this picture, I thought I should make a video talking about these things, because it can create for some interesting ideas. So yeah, if you saw this picture, if you if you related with this, and if you felt there are certain things about this that you maybe you connected with it, and yeah, your experiences and the way you look at things connected with it, and yeah, so let me know what you thought of it and how you sort of related and connected with this, if you connected with it in any way. And I guess it can be some pretty interesting emotions, and that might occur in interesting sort of situations. So yeah, I guess yeah, pretty interesting terms, and pretty interesting the ways that they're described. But I guess it's sort of important to think of it, to have a unique perspectives on all the things that are listed here, because these things, like I said, these things are sort of hard to explain, which means there might be so much uniqueness in these experiences that people perceive them in different ways. That's why they might find it so difficult to express them, because words don't make that much sense when these experiences can be obscure and different from each other. So yeah, I would say to think of this using your own original experiences, and to sort of relate to it in the ways that you personally find it interesting, and how it relates to you. So yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, an amazing article, or yeah. So okay, so I guess that's kind of it. I hope what I said made sense, and I hope you found this video interesting. Check this picture out, and this list out yourself, and see what you can relate to. And yeah, I liked making this video, and I thought yeah, because like I said, I'd sort of been talking about some things similar to this, so I thought it was pretty interesting to talk about this, and I had to talk about this. So yeah, that's I guess that's it for this video, and tell me how you feel about this too, and what things you related to, and what sort of life experiences you could relate with this. And yeah, let me know how you feel about it. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.